If you've been enjoying our podcast as much as we have and hope that we continue past 50 episodes, here's your chance. Here's your chance to help make that happen. By becoming a Patreon subscriber, not only will you help the Little House on the Prairie 50th Anniversary podcast to live on, but you'll also get exclusive content just for you.
Here's what's in store for you. Join monthly Q&A sessions where you can ask us about anything. Whether it's about our work, personal interests, or advice on your own projects, we're here to connect and share.
Enjoy unique content created specifically for Patreon subscribers, including bonus segments from our shows.
You'll have a say in what we create, and you'll have a voice in future content.
Benefit from exclusive discounts on merchandise and entries into special giveaways. It's our way of saying thank you for your support.
Receive personalized shout-outs in videos, podcasts, or social media posts.
Because your support on Patreon allows us to dedicate more resources to creating the content that you love.
You could join the Little House 50th Anniversary podcast community on Patreon and become a Prairie patron for just $5 a month. We thank you so much for your continued support, and we cannot wait to share our ongoing journey with you on Patreon.
We are extremely grateful for the support of VisitSimiValley.com and the city of Simi Valley's belief in Little House on the Prairie and their support of the Little House 50th Anniversary podcast.
Discover the charm of Simi Valley, California, the home of the prairie. Visit Simi Valley, where adventure meets history and the spirit of the prairie comes alive. Explore the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library, step aboard Air Force One, enjoy stunning hikes and savor delicious local cuisine. Whether you're here for a weekend getaway or a family vacation, Simi Valley offers something for everyone and is only 30 minutes from Los Angeles. Plan your visit today and experience the best of Simi Valley. Go to visitsimivalley.com for more details. Your adventure awaits in Simi Valley.
It did? I'm sorry.
You're
sorry.
on.
I'm on.
You're on.
I missed the countdown, everybody. Hello. This is tis I, Pamela Bob. How are you guys, everybody? Off to a great start today. Okay, welcome.
Missing the countdown. That's a first. You've never missed the countdown.
I've never done. I must have blinked and it just went. Anyway.
It was gone. All right. Well, never mind. Let's
How
move
are
on.
you all? I'm your host. Yes, creative woman on the prairie, Pamela Bob. I am here with our prairie bitch that we love all so much, Alison Arngrim. Hello, Alison. And of course, our hashtag imaginary boyfriend, Dean Butler. How are you guys?
Very good.
Yeah?
Very good. How are you, Pamela? How are things in New York today?
They're good. Weather is starting to, little tinges
spring
of spring.
Has it
Little
popped?
buds are budding.
Oh,
and
that's
it's so
great.
exciting. And of course, anytime it's above 45 degrees here, it's like the nectar of the gods have started. It's incredible. It feels like freedom, sweet freedom.
And Alison, what's the weather in Paris right now?
Well, it's gorgeous today.
Is it?
It's been really cold and we
Yeah.
had rain and one of the towns I went to, we were somewhere at some high altitude and we had snow and it was just like, and it's finally started to warm up the last few days and today was gorgeous and tomorrow's supposed to be nice, which is good because I may be going to Paris Disney. I'm like,
Nice.
I'm a sucker for Disney. And they got the Ratatouille ride. And it's just like worth the airfare. I'm telling you, the Ratatouille ride.
So 72 degrees in Los
lovely.
Angeles yesterday.
Ugh, perfect.
And it's heading towards the
perfect
low
temperature.
70s today. And I have to say, the spring, I love that sort of the change of season time of year. I love this time of year because we're getting, the light is changing and it is, green is popping, fresh green popping. And I love the fall because of the changing of leaves and so on. This is a wonderful transitional time in our.
Yeah,
in
I'm
our
much
season.
happier when the days are longer and the light extends.
Oh, it's getting it's daylight saving time is on, no question.
Yeah.
We're just creeping into the 60s here. Just creeping into the 60s
Yeah,
here.
we're not there yet in New York, but
No,
you know.
I guess not. No. Yeah.
Wah, wah, wah. Oh, it was also, my birthday on March 24th. It was my
we all
birthday.
celebrated your
Well,
we all sent you happy birthday.
I know, it
greetings.
was very sweet. And I forgot to mention, last episode, I forgot to mention that it was the 1-year anniversary of Simi Valley, the 50th anniversary festival.
Yes, it was.
And that last day,
tired.
that Sunday of that festival was my birthday. And it was a crazy, chaotic, wonderful, tired, thrilling birthday. But I'll always remember that for, it was a great time. I can't believe it was a year ago. It feels like it was like yesterday, and it also feels like it was a lifetime ago. Does it not?
No, exactly.
I'm still tired from that.
Yes.
I feel the same way. I feel like we've
still
been
exhausted.
sprinting. We've been sprinting ever since, and the sprint is continuing. Maybe not quite. We were all there. I mean, the tempo
It was
becomes
crazy.
so intense when you're up, but the fall off was not huge. I mean, everybody's moving right on with whatever else that they're doing, and it's been a busy time in the world of Little House. So and
picking up once again, isn't it?
Yeah, so we're talking about we're doing an event in Columbia, California, June 6, 7, and 8. And the last episode we talked about the camp out was shot extensively in Sonora, and the episode that we're going to talk about today was shot extensively in Sonora. Some of it in locations that will actually be utilized for this event. So we want to be sure that we're talking.
Yes.
That is so cool. Okay, we'll get to it. Produced in the studios of UBN Go in Burbank, California, this is the Little House on the Prairie 50th Anniversary Podcast, in case you didn't know. Okay, Dean, hit it. What are we recapping today?
What are we doing?
Okay, so as with our last episode, we are going to Sonora today.
Yeah.
Tuolumne County. We always referred to it as going to Sonora because we always, as a company, we always stayed in the town of Sonora at the Sonora Inn along, crazy. If you're talking about traffic, Highway 49 going through Sonora is some of the most intense traffic you'll ever step into. And it's still that way because it's just it's a connector to other places that people are going. Anyway, we're talking today about episode 9 of season 7, The In-Laws.
And this is the first episode we're recapping that it's later in the series.
Yes, it is, right.
Yeah.
It is a later episode. And we're doing it because of this, because we're leading into
Sonora.
the event in Sonora. And so we thought it would be, and there's so many beautiful episodes we could talk about in regards to that particular set of locations. Michael and Kent McCrae, our producer, loved this area to shoot because they were very familiar with it from the Bonanza years. Just the topography was beautiful. Nothing like Minnesota, but then Simi Valley is nothing like Minnesota. So it's like, okay, we're just in this different world.
Right.
But they loved this location. They had great relationships up there. The Sierra Railroad was there, which was a huge feature in a number of episodes. Kent McCrae loved the train. He loved pretending to be the engineer. So, we went to Sonora probably twice a year, Alison. I'm thinking it was probably
once we do like a bunch of episodes. We go, well, we have to do some of this one and some of that one and crank them out. But so many episodes. The one where we're panning for gold, the camp out, of course. I mean, so many episodes. Of course, the one where Laura runs away. It's incredible.
And there's a panning for gold. Fun thing to do in Columbia. They do gold panning in Columbia, so people will get a chance to do that.
But I find it
interesting
interesting because these days you could never get, I guess we'll see it with the Netflix adaptation, right? Where I think these days you could never do Little House on the Prairie and not actually have it look like the prairie, right? Like, I don't know why there was an acceptance of a suspension of belief during the time of this series that
it was television.
We were brilliant. We were just so brilliant. I don't know.
But also there was an understanding that television was shot in Los Angeles.
Huh.
I mean,
right.
There were a few shows that were maybe done outside of. I mean, there were always there was the Hawaii Five-0, the Magnum PI. Right. There was always a show in San Francisco.
Right.
Probably one show in New York, but really tricky to do New York because New York is so crazy expensive to shoot in. To go now. The industry is literally all over the world, and you have the opportunity to go to the places where these things might naturally be set. And here with the new Netflix series, which we are going to be talking about.
They're going to the prairie.
I mean, you couldn't not have an authenticity to. Yes. I guess that's my point. Is that there was a suspension of authenticity.
Yes.
You know, you're doing Little House on the Prairie in an area with mountains, right? Like that's
live
crazy.
California live oaks. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Well, we just come off the era of Hawaiian Eye that was shot entirely on a soundstage. They didn't even go outside.
Oh, they didn't even go to Hawaii. Did they even?
No, they shot some stock footage for the opening credits. Right. The whole thing was not a sounds if you building. They didn't go outdoors, let alone like to Hawaii. And the first Hawaii Five-0 wasn't shot in Hawaii. They shot a teeny little bit in Hawaii, and then they just shot it all. They just used to do that all the time.
No, Hawaii,
and like
wait a minute. No, Catherine.
The old
went
Hawaii
to Hawaii. No, with Jack Lord. Catherine went to Hawaii 3 times to shoot Hawaii.
What you're talking about the Hawaii Five-0 with Jack Lord?
Yes. Was there one before that?
There was a Hawaii, completely not in Hawaii. That's what was so crazy. Yeah, they were obsessed. There was a whole era, because if you watch like 77 Sunset Strip, where they actually used that part of Sunset Strip, which isn't 77, but there you go, the Dinos.
Yes.
But there were a bunch of shows. Well, I mean, the Mary Tyler Moore Show. We'll go shoot the opening credits in Minneapolis. And then
now
the entire thing was on a soundstage.
Right, it's a 4-camera comedy.
But not only was it a comedy, but it was set indoors. It's not
in
like
a newsroom. Right. It was
this
set
Little
in
House on the Prairie. Like Prairie is in the title.
Outside, prairie, flat.
Yes.
Flat.
All right, so let's just keep going with the description.
Sorry,
here.
that was a tangent. Alison hit it. Favorite part of the show.
The synopsis.
Yeah, so we're talking about the in-laws, and the in-laws premiered on. Oh, did I do this not right? It was November 24th. It was premiered on November 24th, 1980. It was written by Don Ballock, again directed by William F. Claxton, and so now Alison, the synopsis.
Who was wait? I looked at the credits here now of this here in-laws show. I'm just now wait. I'm going to have to look again because am I losing my mind?
Yeah, I remembered it as Michael directing it, but it was Bill who directed it.
It seems like it's a Michael episode. The comedy in it seems very Michael.
Because it's super duper goofy. Okay, let me see. There was some credit on this one. I just always said it was like losing my mind that who was involved in this episode. It's like all credits here. Claxton, that makes it all cast and crew. No. Somebody was on this. This was directed by, yes, it was directed by Claxton. It absolutely says it's Claxton.
Yeah.
Absolutely says in there. Okay.
Yeah, I had remembered it being Michael, but I think one of the reasons I remembered it that way is because we added a scene for Sweet 16 while we were there shooting because the episode was short. And we added a scene, and Michael took over and directed, and then Bill came back and continued.
Wait, you added a scene for Sweet 16, or you added a scene for this one?
No, for Sweet 16, which Michael directed, and it was during this particular trip. That was done, and because it came in a little short, or he just decided they just knew that they were going to add this scene, and so Michael stepped in and directed. I think this.
But wasn't Sweet 16 in season 6?
It was. Sorry. It was a different thing. No, you're exactly right. It was Sweet 16 was season
Unless
6.
they really knew what season 7 was going to be well in advance.
No.
Right.
There was some other. I'm flipping my road trips around here.
See, you're getting your road trips in.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. So never mind.
I thought I was losing
everything
my
I
mind.
just said.
Don't worry, I normally do anyway. It's okay.
Okay,
There's an episode. Okay, here it is. Which two
Oh,
episodes?
So,
still haven't gotten to the synopsis.
Of this, Alison.
All right, I'm just losing my mind because there's an episode I thought was no, it's not him. Okay, losing my mind here. Okay, so indeed, the in-laws, new in-laws, Charles and Almanzo, expand their business by delivering goods to Sleepy Eye. They go from partners to competitors. Well, actually, in about 5 seconds flat. Yeah. Making a wager about the quickest way to get there and who can get there first, producing frustration, amusement, and a lesson that honesty is the best policy. And pride goeth before a fall. May I just say that whole episode is pride goeth before a fall. I feel very Caroline Ingalls saying that, but it is the point of this episode.
It is that. You're exactly. That is the big lesson of this episode.
Terrible.
Yeah.
All right.
No, it's fun, and it establishes right away, which I had forgotten because I hadn't watched the whole thing in a long time, is that they really established that there was this push and pull tension between
always
between Pa and Almanzo,
yes.
and he played on that, and they wrote it that way. That people always talked about Almanzo as being sort of stubborn, and it never occurred to me that that's what was being played, but there is some of that in there, no question.
I literally wrote in my notes, Almanzo is the only person on the planet who thinks Pa needs to be cut down a notch, right? Like, he's the only person who has beef with Charles Ingalls. Well, except when we get to Cavendish, but whatever his face is, later in the episode. Cavendish later in the episode.
Yes,
but yeah, again,
it's
so
incredible.
funny, the tension between, and also they're frenemies, right? Like, they are best friends. They're so similar, and yet it's that constant butting of the heads. It's silly and it's fun.
Stirs the pot because it was the pot stirrer because it was me and Kevin. Who's the big pot stirrer in this? Garvey. Jonathan Garvey, nicest guy in the world, opens the show by giving both of them grief about their work and their lives.
Yep.
Like they're not cutting it. Starts really super weird passive aggressive undercutting. He doesn't say, I think you two are failures. He starts going, well, I don't know.
Yeah, how much
is
money
the
you
mill
making
keeping you busy?
And how's the mill going?
In the meantime, he's living in a shack in a bunk bed. But okay.
Yes, I know.
Give me a break, Garvey.
Harassing them about their job. And last I checked, the mill was going great guns. What the hell is he talking? He worked at the mill. What's he talking about?
I know. It's weird.
Harassment. Well, I suppose. I mean, I don't see you making any money. What is he going to sell them Bitcoin next? What is he? Going to be an outbreak pitch? He's telling them they're not making enough money and harassing them about their job until they go, well, I guess we're going to do this thing. I'm like, what was that all about? What was Jonathan's problem?
It is. Well, Jonathan's moved on. He's in the big city now. He's
getting ready to
something
move on
new.
to Father Murphy is what's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
right. So Jonathan proposes, hey, they should think about starting their own freight service, which actually is not a bad idea at all.
Right.
It was necessary.
They
should
start
be Wilder
talking
and
about
Ingalls. No, my lad.
Ingalls.
Alphabetical order.
Should be Ingalls and Wilder. Alphabetical order, my boy.
Yes.
And we just talked about alphabetical order recently, did we not, Dean? In talking about building, and I said, well, personally, I always like alphabetical order, but I'm biased.
Yes, of course. You and I always do well in that situation.
I do well on that
with
too.
alphabetical order. Yeah. We're all there, but
I always do well with
alphabetical order. I'm okay. And I'm just it's both of them right away get over their heads with this whole like pride goeth before a fall thing, where they both just start making stupid decisions, like scene one, they both start making completely idiotic decisions, which get worse and worse as the episode goes on.
Sure does.
Yes, right,
now,
exactly.
This is my beef. There's so much patriarchy going on in this episode. I mean, at an infuriating rate, and I know it was of the time. I know it. I know that, everybody. However, they make a bet to see who can get to Sleepy Eye the fastest, and the bet is my wife we'll
We'll
cook
do
you.
the cooking.
We'll do the
Yes.
cooking.
Yes. Yes.
What
Exactly
the
that. Okay,
actual? Ugh.
he says, how about a wager? And Carolyn says, as she always does, and quite rightly, because this was a
I
thing.
don't like
Yes,
gambling.
we don't
won't
like
go-
gambling.
Gambling. And many, many times it's come up. Charles does not gamble. The Ingalls do not gamble.
Nope.
It is not appropriate. It is not respected in their church or in that town. There's no casino in the town. There's no saloon with a wheel of fortune and a thing. There's no gambling going on in the town. It's like illegal. And so, no, we do not gamble. And he goes, oh no, it's okay because it's not for money. I'm just going to go make you do this.
No,
I'm going to
so
make
messed up.
Carolyn, who's against gambling, participate by being part of the prize.
It's awful. And they're fine with it, apparently, but it's awful. I mean, ugh.
We've decided to make the bet, but we didn't ask you about it. You don't think we
Right.
should be making the bet, but
You're
we're going
the
to
one
make
who's
you
gonna pay it off.
participate.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to take care of the winner. What did I get? Now they did both. They were kind of like, did I agree to that? Wait, what? There is clearly something wrong. They're both kind of looking at him funny because it is like, how did they get dragged into this stupid thing? No.
Yeah. Well,
And of course, if they both
have a good deal of fun when they realize the two women are. I mean, this wonderful little scene with Karen and Melissa.
Oh, I
where
love this scene.
everyone is laughing
tackle.
about the mistakes that the guys are about to make, and they're just having a field day with
It's
that.
actually the most animated I've ever seen Karen on the show is that scene between her and Melissa. And it's so honest in the laughter. And I was thinking, oh, maybe she's using a little substitution work on laughing about Pa, perhaps. Yes.
Yeah, no, I
I don't think that's it. They go, these idiots aren't going to get there. Neither of them are going to get there on time. And he's going to be cooking dinner. Okay, this is like, we ain't cooking anybody dinner.
Well,
Because if both of them lose, if they lose, then they have to cook dinner.
Isn't it Caroline who says, and if you both neither get that you cook dinner?
Yes.
Or no, I
Charles
say,
said, sure.
if neither one of us gets there, we'll cook dinner. I think,
right.
I think I say that.
Yeah.
Now, there's a running thing, though, about Charles saying, I don't normally cook constantly the episode. Oh, I never cook. Oh, God, I'm going to cook dinner. Now, we've established before, Charles has cooked dinner. There have been when Ma was sick. Charles cooked and he was fine.
Right.
And
remember the episode where Ma was she was the teacher and she comes home and he's like, don't worry, I've already cooked dinner, which is hot.
dinner. And if you get back to the books, Almanzo had his little bachelor shanty with his brother. Almanzo cooked all the time. Almanzo was actually historically, apparently was quite the cook.
Well, he grew up in a home with some wonderful cooking going on. So he
learned
8,000 sisters.
How to prepare.
They were taught to
the
cook.
patriarchy is strong in this episode. Very, very strong.
They don't know how to do anything.
As is Albert's peach fuzz. The peach fuzz. Why did no one tell him to start shaving? Oh,
yeah.
It's
He's
like
getting
that
old.
awkward adolescent, like when you want to say to like I don't know how old he was. I'm just guessing. Like 14-year-old boy, you just want to be like, it's time to shave because that doesn't look good. But no one said that to him, and he has this awkward peach fuzz mustache in this episode.
Okay. Well, maybe he was trying
like that morning.
He wanted to look mature, like
I'm thinking he might have woken up. That might have been like the day he had the peach. That like been literally that day.
Happened that quick? Just
he
overnight?
hit that morning at 9.
I think boys don't realize they don't look mature with the peach fuzz because it's peach fuzz.
No,
just shave it. Just shave it.
Yeah, just shave
then it'll
exactly.
just shave it. Okay, then we move on. Yes, we move on. They go on their trip. Now Pa has decided he's come up with a shortcut through the prairie.
Yes.
And Almanzo has decided he's going to go up a ginormous hill
because
they're
it's a
both
shorter
idiots.
road.
They're both idiots.
It's
with fully loaded wagons. Yeah. It's
completely dumb.
Yeah. So it's all the episode is all about the mechanics of how they're
getting to Sleepy Eye,
dealing with these things, and there's a lot of this one with the wagons racing towards the hill. My wonderful double Danny Doucette was driving the wagon. He had the wig on and the whole thing, and he did a really nice job. I could do some parts of it, what they would let me do, but Danny does all of that. And it's we've got to get our comeuppance all the time. We've got to realize what I really like about Charles and Almanzo were written quite differently here. Almanzo says to his horses when they can't make it up the road, he said, "You did the best you could. I can't ask for any more than that."
Sweet.
That's really nice.
I know.
And Charles it's like, and it's so interesting. Anybody who drives wagons would know. I mean, you wouldn't, when the horse stops pulling, you don't keep saying, "Let's go." I mean, you don't, because that's just not, the horse is not going to help you there, and you're going to ruin the horse if you push it and he can't pull the load anymore.
Right.
The horse wants to pull the load, but if they can't move it, they can't move it. And you want to let them off the hook because you don't want them quitting on you.
Right.
So anyway, there are things that are like a stuck truck that we're playing here that is just not the way you would treat. And so horsemen out there, horsewomen out there, horse people, we know that we shouldn't have done it that way. You don't urge the horse to pull when it can't pull the load anymore.
Yeah.
Okay,
Also,
so Almanzo dumps the stuff.
At the top,
He's going to come back and get it later. But let's keep in mind now, it's not his stuff.
No, it's not his stuff.
It's someone else just purchased this, is paying for this, and it belongs to them.
That he's
which
shipping.
creates a
And he's
problem
giving
with
it,
the
okay,
local.
so you're jumping to the giving it away part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The starving family
The
who
farming
just
family.
miraculously arrive out of the middle of nowhere and go, they're trying to get to the next, and they're starving. They have no food. And they're like, we don't know. God will provide. Then they go, it's a miracle. Someone has left a ham and several weeks worth of groceries and canned goods by the side of the road. And of course they take them because he's going, and then poor Almanzo comes back and it's just a train wreck. I do like when you come in with the piece of wood and you're going to murder the whole family till you realize, oh my God, it's a family. It's a bunch of kids. It's like, and now Almanzo's going to kill the starving people.
And then you eat the food with them.
Yeah.
What?
And so like the
Never
bed's
mind
over.
time.
The bet is over. I mean,
You've given up. You've given up. Because I'm like,
he
he just gave up and said, screw it. I'm having dinner with these people because I'm not going to make it.
And he's going to give them I've always liked that bursting in the door scene. I like that, from a playing it perspective, I liked, there are not a lot of things that I do in the show that I like when I look at them, but
really? That makes me so sad.
But it's just, it is what it is. But that moment of recognition, I liked that. That felt very organic to me. Looking and seeing what was going on at the table, and looking at the little boy, the little blonde boy sitting at the table who looks like, what a great casting that was.
Those kids.
The kids just looked like urchins. They were just like, it's sweet kids. How could you not give them anything that they needed?
You cooked to the ham.
So
it was already cooked.
Let me ask about that, though. Did you feel while you were filming that things didn't feel authentic, and that's why you don't like it? Or is that, looking back at it now, you as a more, experienced person can look and sort of pick apart your performance?
I think I was probably picking it apart then too, but I there's so much looping in this episode. The looping was a killer for me in so much of that work in Little House.
That's a bummer. That's a bummer.
And it's, I look at people who looped well. Even Michael had some looping in the last episode we did, the camp out, where he's in the barn and he had to loop that. He couldn't sync what he said as he was talking about Mrs. Olsen coming on the camping trip. I mean, it just...
Why did they have to loop that scene? Was that outside?
It was outside. It was in the barn. The barn was outside. They shot it. Yeah, they did have the barn on the soundstage, but this particular, they also had the barn on the location.
Yeah, got it.
And it was in the approach pattern of 3 major airports, and so there was always an airplane overhead. There was a 737 every 30 seconds going over.
And there'd be some crow would always go, caca. I always, when I went into loop, I'd listen to the thing, and some crow would, like, in the middle of my mother, caca.
Yeah, right. No, exactly.
Where the hell did that come from?
So anytime there was a jingle of harness, anytime there was... today there is I think there's a much more of a commitment to recording natural sound and having it be natural. This was the era where if there was anything that interrupted the actual dialogue, you re-recorded everything. So everything was recreated in order to get a sound where the actor's voice on the 3-inch speaker that everyone was listening to this on could be clearly heard. It's just a different emphasis today than it was then.
We had a big boom mic. It's with the wind. We had wind, and you had this big boom mic, and the wind is.
No one wore lavaliers, Pamela. I mean, there were no lavs. This was all overhead booms. On the stage, it was the boom on the tripod thing, where they were flipping it like a sitcom or and out on location, it was a fishpole. Everything was done high or low fishpole, and that's how everything was recorded.
Yeah, and looping is a drag, especially when they're full scenes. It's different if it's one or two words or a line every now and then, but because you're not in the moment, you're not actually doing it.
We would
go
back. You could go back and do. I mean, the expectation was, because there was so much looping, that you would go, and Michael was brilliant at it. Melissa was brilliant at it. Alison, you obviously got really good at it doing it, but it would not be uncommon to go in and do 70 loops in 20 minutes.
Jeez.
Yes. That's how it got done. I'm trying to remember which episode it was, and it may have just one of the school ones. I swear I think we looped the whole damn episode because it was outdoors where most of it was happening in the schoolyard. Yeah. And there was wind, and there was a plane, and there was a bird, and there was crunchy gravel sounds. We're just like, am I looping this entire episode? This entire episode is looped. I mean,
the episode we just finished doing previously, the camp out, anything that would have been at the river, all of that would have been looped.
Yes, yes. All looped.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Horrifying.
That's a bummer.
So I think the nuance of performance really suffers in that situation, and I think it really puts a premium on skill to not have it destroy what you've done for real.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Very hard.
I have a question. I have another question for you, Dean. Did you know how to ride? Did you need a lesson on riding wagons? Because there's one moment where you have your foot out, out of the seat on the brake.
Well, that's Danny doing that.
Oh,
that's Danny doing that, and that's how you did the brake. If you had to have both hands on the lines, you did use your foot for the brake. I don't think I was ever in a position where I had to do that. I certainly could have done that. That would not have been out of the realm.
Out of your wheelhouse.
Yeah. No, I'd never driven a team. I'd done a lot of on the back of a horse riding. So I was very comfortable with that. I had never driven a team. I would say, our teams were so well trained. These horses, they were very willing. They were very well trained. They were well rewarded for doing what they were being asked to do.
Thank heavens.
So
good.
Yeah. So I don't think we ever really worried about. It's not that things couldn't happen, because they could, but the horses were not going to be the source of the problem by sort of misbehaving. That was never going to happen.
All right, because that was a precarious foot on brake moment. So, that was your double.
Yeah, that
Got
was
it. Yeah. Okay, so then let's cut to Pa. And Pa is driving.
Stupid.
Well, this is another one that I'll talk about this in one moment. First, I'll just say he picks up a straggler along the way.
One of his favorite strangers.
Yes.
Hitchhiker. This guy was in how many episodes? I think he's in 7 episodes.
He's hilarious
in
every single one of them.
So
the character's name is Cavendish. He's a funny old straggler, and Pa picks him up. And here's the note that I wrote: if I were in a wagon with a stranger, because then Pa, goes off the road and he's cutting across the prairie, and Cavendish is like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm just taking a shortcut." If I was in a wagon with a stranger and he makes a sharp right to go off the road through the wilderness, I would be sure that I was with a serial killer. No doubt, I would be sure that I was with someone who is about to kill me.
I
That
have
was in
to go.
person.
Interesting. I mean, the whole thing was out in the middle of nowhere, so the shortcut was
Right?
just was less
Through
on the
the
beaten
prairie.
path. But
My note was, boss picked up a complete stranger hitchhiker. This must be where the girls get it and why they're always getting into wagons on horses with strangers. Sure, get in the wagon.
Mary with Johnny Cash, baby. Do
This
these
is
people
where
not know?
Boss, just get in the wagon.
I know, it's
and the guy's really
crazy.
weird. It's like, where are you going? Well, I'm going down. He's like crazy, and he lets him in the car.
No.
And this guy, I saw, Dean, you made notes about this. You made big notes about this actor because, oh my God, he was in vaudeville as a child.
Oh, he's
he
in
did like
everything.
7 episodes of Little House. He was in everything. And there's some quote from IMDb goes, well, it's hard at auditions. No one remembers, but I was in over 100 films. He's like,
the guy was in
100
everything.
movies.
it's
He's in
amazing.
everything.
And as an
a
adult,
genius.
at a certain point in his life, he was running a bowling alley.
Wow.
Eddie Quillen.
Eddie Quillen. Eddie Quillen was the original cabin boy in the first Mutiny on the Bounty.
Wow. Crazy.
I mean,
Max Sennett. He was in the Max Sennett movies. He was hired. He was everybody.
He did dozens of these two-reelers. I mean,
Girl
About it.
Crazy.
Eddie
Mutiny
Quillen
on the
was a
Mr.
wonderful
Lincoln.
actor.
Grapes of
Grapes
Wrath.
of
He was in
Wrath.
Grapes of
Of
Wrath.
course.
He's in the Grapes.
He
of
was
Wrath.
Brigadoon, forgot to say. Mr. Chicken, of course, I love all those kind of things. He was on everything, and then, yes, he did Little House on the Prairie. I think it was like 7 episodes of the
Yes.
Little House on the Prairie.
So
and of course,
wonder-
Highway to Heaven.
I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
How
yeah.
did he
really
and Michael
liked
Landon
Eddie
meet?
Quillen.
But I wonder how and where they met. Do you have
I'm
any
sure
idea?
I'm sure Eddie Quillen did Bonanzas.
I think he did
just
Bonanzas
had
well.
to have done Bonanzas.
He had it. He's just like, this guy was
the
everywhere.
Same thing. This was the same thing with Lou Ayres, where Michael always hired Lou Ayres. Later in Lou Ayres' life, he did not work. I mean, Lou Ayres won an Academy Award for All Quiet on the Western Front as a 17-year-old.
Wow.
And what's the rest of his life going to be? And Lou Ayres was always working with Michael. I think this was a part of Michael that was this was a really special part of who Michael was, that he had these people that he knew would deliver, and he wrote. I mean, you just know that when he and Don Balak are breaking that story, Michael's saying, I want you to write it. I want you to write something for Eddie Quillen here.
Yeah.
Right.
And there you go. And the rhythm of it was so great for him. And this is what he always did. This character was always what he
I
did.
know.
This
It was a
version of
recurring
this.
character, even though he was different. He was a different person,
Yes.
but the same character. And frickin' hilarious.
Always funny and wonderful. Yeah. I love this. I love the scene when they write it, when the wagon is in the middle of the stream. That was an interesting horse moment.
Yes, tell me.
And well, see, I grew up around horses, and I remember when they drove the wagon down that steep hill into the creek bed.
Yes.
Obviously, this was not Michael driving the wagon at that point. But they drove, Hal Burton was driving, or one of the wranglers. They kept the shot low, so you didn't know who was driving the wagon. And the horses were out in the middle of the stream, and they called lunch.
Oops.
And I'm thinking, well, are you going to take the horses out of the stream?
Oh.
And because the water's freezing cold.
Yes.
And I went to, this was one of those mistakes that I made.
Oh God, you said something.
I approached Michael and said, shouldn't we take shouldn't the horses come out? And Michael said, I'm writing something. Don't bother me. Go talk to Denny if you want to talk. So I went and spoke to Denny McLean, who was the wrangler, our lead wrangler. And Denny, I think quite rightly said to me, for the horses, having their feet in cold water is actually really a good thing for them. It moisturizes their hooves. It's not a bad thing at all. Now, the horses stood in that cold water for an hour while everyone had their, I'm not sure how the wranglers felt about this, but Denny assured me it was okay. I don't know that I really believe that. If it was a warm mud pile, then I'd say, sure, that's great. Have them stand in warm mud for an hour. But freezing cold water for an hour, I thought was maybe a problem, but Denny assured me it was okay. Denny was a great guy. So if Denny said it was okay, I had to sort of, say, okay, this is all right.
Was it hot? It was a hot day.
Well, it was hot outside.
Well,
but the water was very cold.
maybe the horses were like, yay.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was thinking maybe if the horses had been working a lot that day and hot, and maybe being in the cold water would help any kind of swelling they might have had in their legs or their. I mean, who knows? I remember
that's one thing you would not have wanted to put a horse that was heavily sweating.
Yeah.
Into cold water and leave them standing there. That you would not have done. So these horses these horses worked in bursts, and it was 20 seconds here and then an hour and so these were this was probably more work than our teams normally did during this particular episode because there was so much driving. But the horses were generally working in very short bursts, and this would have been one of those things where they would have worked in a very short situation. But so I know I came off like a complete softy when I was, concerned about the horse's cold feet. And as I say, I've been around horses my whole life. I had never seen horses standing in cold water. And this was really, it was up above their, it was, in up their shin, the water. They were standing in that water, and it was rocky in that creek bed. So they were, standing on stones in the water.
Ooh, that harsh.
So anyway, it was just one of those things. But look, it all worked out well. I loved the scene jumping past. That was the horse moment, jumping past that. I love this improvised moment where Michael puts Eddie on his shoulders.
Was that improvised?
It's insane.
Yeah, this process.
See, that got really goofy there.
Yes, it did. It totally did.
No
one was moving. The camera's looking up, and they've got a little bit. There's a little shaky cam going on there. And Michael's shuffling his feet, and Eddie's clinging to him, and they're saying, "Okay, now put your hand here. Now put your hand." I mean, when he at one point had his finger in Michael's mouth.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, what have you been eating, old man? And, all that. I mean, this was the kind of stuff, this was Michael's humor to a T.
Yeah. That's when the whole episode said, okay, we're just going full slapstick. Nobody even cares what the heck is happening in this episode anymore. We've just given up.
And that's your beef with this episode, isn't it, Alison?
Then it's so silly. It's like, okay, would Almanzo have said this or said that or done this? Would Paul have said this or said that? Would Mom? They've just said, to heck with it. This is what we're doing. Yeah. And and Eddie Quinlan, Eddie was absolutely on Bonanza. So yes, like back in '62. So of course, yes, that's totally where he came from.
This episode is pure entertainment for entertainment's sake.
And then we have flashback, to the Nellie's Hotel. Right around this time.
Okay, we should take a break. And then we're going to talk more about patriarchy and this Nellie and Percival moment because it makes me so upset. I can't even take it. All right, we'll be right back.
When you visit Simi Valley, California, you're stepping into the pages of history. Go from the pioneers to the presidents. Explore beautiful wildflowers, hike through iconic Hollywood locations, and end your day aboard the actual Air Force One at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum. Throughout the summer, take the Little House 50th Anniversary Tour at Big Sky Movie Ranch. Less than 15 minutes from Los Angeles and 30 minutes from Universal Studios, Simi Valley has small-town charm with big-time history. Go to visitsimivalley.com for more information. We are so grateful to visitsimivalley.com for their commitment to presenting the Little House 50th Anniversary podcast.
And we're back. And we are also back now to Nellie's restaurant. Correct. Sure. And we see a very pregnant Nellie who is eating the classic pickles and ice cream. Giant pickle and ice cream. She is pregnant with twins. Good. She's starving.
She doesn't know she has twins.
She doesn't know she has twins. But
see, that's the thing.
No.
Again, we don't know that.
She's eating.
And Percival has a fit because Percival is doing this, again, ultra-modern thing. Percival has jumped ahead and is thinking about gestational diabetes and things and complications that nobody was thinking about in 1870s. Then he's saying, well, you're gaining too much weight.
Did you have this conversation where he's talking about gestational diabetes?
No, but he's gone ultra modern saying you're gaining too much weight, but I'm having a baby. But yeah, but the baby weighs what, 6-7 pounds. You've gained too much weight, even though you're pregnant, which is a very, very super ultra modern take working about complicated excessive weight. Sure. Whereas the doctor would have just said, are you breathing? The baby's breathing. Great. We're good. He would have said heartbeat. Good. We're good. Been like that would have been it. But what Percival does not realize, even if he's saying you are gaining excessive weight, eating too much baby, I'm having twins. And if you recall, they were rather enormous twins by the time we saw them in because Denise newborns are big babies. He did not know that. So even if he made all these scientific calculations about exactly how much extra weight I'm supposed to gain, he'd have been off because I was carrying two particularly large twins, which he was unaware of. So he was sitting there going, she's having one tiny little baby. What the heck? Why has she got all this? So yeah, so he was confused, but he's also really harsh about, now for the record, I love pickles. I love ice cream and I love maple syrup. And that was one of the most gorgeous, lovely kosher dill pickles. Like, I don't know.
It's a good one.
I don't know where I got it, but from a good deli.
You could tell it was a good
dynamite.
one.
It was so good. And the ice cream was fresh vanilla ice cream on a cone. Oh my God, go on Facebook, the 10,000 million word arguments about whether we had ice cream cones yet in 1881 or not. Ice cream cones were invented, but not really in normal use.
Making ice cream was a real treat.
Yeah, ice cream was a thing. Cones existed. It was like the World's Fair of 18, whatever. Cones existed, but like in Paris, in France. Oh, wait, I'm there now. I don't know. Did Mrs. Olson personally order ice cream cones from France to have in the mercantile so that I could eat ice cream cone? Maybe that's the backstory. I don't know.
It was $10. Yes.
It was highly unlikely that someone would have had a cone in Minnesota at that point. Maybe in about 5 years that it had a cone. So cones, okay, but I had one. It was delicious.
Well, until refrigeration really became a real thing. Doing ice cream was a very special thing, and you made it and ate it. It wasn't like you didn't sit around. I mean, I certainly churned ice cream with the ice and the rock salt and all that. And once you came, before we had refrigeration at our family place where we cranked ice cream when I was a little person and still do, but you could put it in the freezer. Then you had to pack it back in ice and, all of that to get it to firm up because it came out pretty loose.
Right. Yeah,
Once the dasher came out, it was soft still. It was wonderful.
It was delicious. And so he comes to now. The reason there is a second sequence of maple syrup, giving more chances for a person. And by the way,
I'm letting Alison be nice about it before I come in with the attack. Okay, go on.
Rats me out.
I want to hear Pamela go off on it.
I tell her don't tell him, and she told me no. She's hiding in the closet.
I know.
Yeah.
What was that about?
She gives you away right away.
I know.
I just want to tell you, I went to eat that pickle and ice cream, and that was the famous episode where Michael comes up and says, okay, we have a bucket here, so you can spit out, because I don't know how many takes it's going to be. You can spit out the pickle and ice cream because you don't have to eat it all. And I said, well, when have you seen me do more than like 2 takes? And besides, pickles and ice cream, you see me eat lunch. And he was like, harumph. Well, of course, I did it in 1 take, and we did the pickle and the ice cream, and then I finished my pickle and my ice cream. And of course, I went kind of like, ha, 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 in your face, which you know what happens if you do that to Michael, right? So that's why.
So then he had you dip it in the maple syrup?
Additional where suddenly new pages,
that was
new
an
color
added
pages.
element.
I showed up for work the next day and went here, and suddenly I was having pickles and maple syrup, which was not in the script until I was audacious enough to make a crack about the ice cream and the thing.
Got it.
And he said, and so I had to eat it. To dare me, basically, I will raise the ante now. I dare you to eat this pickle. Of course, I'm a loon, and I thought it was freaking delicious. It was pure real maple syrup because our prop man never skimmed.
I bet it was
and
great.
It was freaking delicious. So the heavy acting really was poor Steve Tracy trying to pretend it tasted bad because it was actually really good.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Here we go about this whole
Give him hell. Give him hell.
storyline.
Too much. Too much about it.
Hold on. Let me make sure I'm.
No.
Okay. Here we go.
What was that?
I'm just making sure I'm lubricated, voice, so I'm ready for this.
Yes.
Okay. When you are pregnant, and it doesn't matter how big your baby is, I had 2 little 6-pound babies, right?
They're
when
tiny
I
little
was
purple
pregnant, you are ravenously hungry 24/7. I ate like a trucker both
You're a
both
little
of my
teeny
pregnancies.
tiny.
You are starving. Your body is working so hard on making this person inside of you. You are ravenous. I mean, ravenous. You can't go an hour without eating, and eating a lot.
Yeah.
So this whole thing of like, Doc Baker says you're eating too much, I call BS on that, because you want to be eating. There is
And in
no
the
fear of
1800s,
gaining
they would have
too
said,
much weight. Are you kidding me? Like, is this a vanity thing? Like, you're getting fat? He says to her, you're getting fat. I mean, what the hell kind of patriarchal crap is this going on right now? Then
Fat shaming in the 1800s.
it is so awful.
And
I
how
mean, for a
freaking
pregnant
thin was that?
woman,
I
it's
weighed
insane.
110 pounds with a pillow under my dress, and he's going, "You're getting fat." And I was going to go, "Don't I weigh like 108?" Like,
and then for
what planet
Maude
are we
to
on?
get in on it also, it's like, she should know better. She's had children. Like,
She ratted me out. She
whole
ratted.
thing
Yeah.
is so actually quite upsetting to me. like the doctor is wrong. Percival, it's the only time I want to slap Percival across the face. Like, he's wrong. It's awful. He treats her like a child. He sends her to her room because she's eating too much. Because she's
We're having a
fat.
baby.
I mean,
How do we have my own
it is so. It was very clearly written by a man, and I mean, it was very clearly written by a man. And
I'm sure
I even
Karen
remember.
pushed back on that.
Oh my
moment.
God!
I
it was
gotta believe
awful.
she sort of pushed back on that, because
She
that
rat
would
me
not have
out.
been. She
That was
would not
where
have
I was
liked that
hiding,
look
eating my
on her.
pickles. I was hiding. I was hiding.
Also, she's eating pickles. It's not like a high caloric food.
Right.
I mean, give me a break.
What's a
It's-
pickle?
it's
12
just-
calories?
This is just a moment in this episode where it actually drives me absolutely crazy. It's so wrong. I mean, it's medically inaccurate, and it's also like just emotionally
And I was
inaccurate.
I was 19 years old at this time, right? I was really, really young. And the reality was I was underweight. If anything, at that age, I was going to my doctor and he's like, could you,
eat a
anorexic? Do you need a
burger.
couple
Right.
of, you okay?
You look
I mean, I
great
was
in the
like
episode,
ridiculously skinny when I was 18, 19. And then I have a pillow shoved up my dress. So yeah, so the idea that person would say, you're eating too much. If I weighed that little while pregnant, they'd put me in the hospital.
Well,
so
listen, if anyone ever
it's like,
says to a pregnant woman, you're eating too much, automatically you're out, like done. I cannot explain to you guys how ravenously hungry you are when you are pregnant. It is a
and the cravings for weird stuff. People really do that.
Yeah. It's nonstop ravenous hunger that never ends. So anyway,
I think
that's my rant.
we need to chalk this up on the charitable side. We need to chalk this up for looking for a way to get to a moment that was going to be funny. I think
Stick with pickles. Stick with pickles.
Stick
Yeah.
with
That's
pickles.
what it's
I
about.
do like
It's
how she's
about-
like, yes, my love.
you have to chalk it up to that, because no one was doing something designed to be patriarchally hateful.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. It's that they were completely unaware of how wrong it all was, right? I mean, even just telling a pregnant woman you're eating too much and you're getting fat, it's just like, what are you doing? You could have made a comic bit out of eating pickles and ice cream, right?
They should have, when the babies were born, had Percival turn around and go, "There's two of them? No wonder you were eating so much."
Exactly.
Well, that moment was, look, in
so crazy.
an episodic television, the reality of the episode is the reality of the episode, but very rarely are people held to that reality in future episodes. There are strings that get pulled.
Yes, of course.
Generally, you're re-racking to neutral at the beginning of any new episode.
But this whole episode was about weird slapsticky things that had people doing things that were kind of out of character. The lying. Okay, the paw with the lying, the gambling, then the lying, then there's the lying. And then Percival, who is straight up, but generally loves Nellie, to twice hassle her for a pickle.
Right.
They're reaching for it to do shtick in this episode. They're reaching hard.
Okay, that's my rant. We'll move on now.
Okay.
It was just weirdly out of character.
For lying. Paul lies like
There's a lot of out of character moments for yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, so they both lose, right? They both.
Yes.
At first, Charles convinces Almanzo that he actually was there,
right,
and makes him feel really bad.
And Almanzo being the gullible, honest fellow that
he was very honest. Yes, and he was very honest when he arrived too. Just like, well, I was wrong. You were right. Very humble.
Yeah.
Pa's lying.
And
he's lying.
Pa goes right along with it. There's no hesitation to say, maybe I need to tell the truth here. No.
One of my favorite things about this episode, because they have a phone. Many episodes, especially in the first couple of years, almost 80% of the drama is things that could have been prevented if anyone had had a telephone in those days. They're all things where people don't hear from each other for days, weeks, months, when how long Pa's out with the dynamite, where people can't communicate for days or weeks at a time. And there's no way to let someone know that so-and-so's sick or so-and-so's died or whatever terrible thing is going on. And the drama is all about the fact that you can't find out. And you go, wow, if they had phones then. They have a phone. They have a phone. Ma has already been on the phone to Jonathan Garvey and knows that nobody got there. She knows they freaking lost because there's a phone. And then he had the audacity to call her up on said phone. So he knows there's a phone and goes, we're staying overnight. And blah, blah, blah.
Out of character. I know.
Lies.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting little bit that fuels some fun.
Yes,
but it's I think as I always watch those scenes, it was the way he played those scenes. The conniving came very easily.
Yes.
He didn't struggle with it at all. And there would be another way to do that if you were struggling with that decision, but he didn't struggle with that decision. It's sort of an interesting thing. And I think this is a function of, look, you reach a point where I think for someone who is cranking out so much content, you're looking for ways to pull threads that will make something work. Mm-hmm. And it did work. I mean, it did work. It absolutely worked. But I don't know that he was as conscious about the message that he was sending.
Sure.
While he was making it work.
No, it was it was made to work for comedy's sake, right?
Totally.
It wasn't made to work for actual, would this character have actually done this and morality and yada yada yada. No. This was a slapstick, Laurel and Hardy type of episode, right? This is pie in the face episode.
And he could get away. He really did that.
He was funny.
Nicely. He was funny, and he did that kind of. He just did that kind of back and forth banter really, really well.
Yeah.
And naughty. Charles could be naughty. But I think
he was being naughty. Right.
Yes.
If they're going to struggle, I cannot lie to Carolyn, but I cannot lose face. Okay, I'm going to lie to Carolyn. But lie to Carolyn. He was like, and then he's like, hey, Garvey, could you also get in on this and lie? Tell a bunch of lies for me in the story.
Garvey's like, sure.
Even though Garvey
didn't he say something to Garvey about
Garvey already told her.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So Garvey's going, sure, Charles. And when he's already spoken several hours ago to Carolyn and said, none of them are here. They're not here. Nobody's here. And she already knows it was well past 1:30. Nobody was there. And he's going, oh, yeah, Charles, I will totally tell her that. And he's like, oh, I can tell her that. And he somehow, in the whole ride home, forgot, even though he used said phone to lie some more, that there was a phone and that she could have easily have spoken to someone about it.
So
there you go.
So Pa convinces Almanzo that he actually won. So he makes Almanzo
pay for dinner.
Pa and Mary. We get a touch of Mary in this episode out to a very fancy restaurant.
Okay, there's a weird moment there too. They arrive at the restaurant and says, "This is the right place for Mary." Like we can't take the
I
flying girl to the
know.
restaurant. What was he supposed to be saying? I don't
know.
understand.
That was
It
so
sounded like
weird.
we can't take her here.
So yeah, I don't know.
So weird.
Yeah, because I didn't hear the rinky tink piano going from the and the glasses smashing. I didn't hear any of that.
Oh, and poor Mary is also like, oh, come on. I never get taken out to dinner.
to go
Like,
out.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, God.
Nobody ever takes me anywhere.
So now the cool thing about
Dying over that
okay,
one.
putting the story aside, the cool thing about that restaurant is the Bella Union, is there in Columbia. This was on the streets of Columbia. The whole scene where they meet on the street and they step into the restaurant, that is exactly like that today. Our event coming up in Columbia, all of our VIP meals will be served in that restaurant.
Cool.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
That
in
is
that restaurant,
so
and we will
cool.
probably have a sign on that table that this is where someone's going to be sitting at that table, and it's exactly as it was when you go in there today.
Okay, so they're in the restaurant, and lo and behold, who's their waiter?
Here comes Mr. Cavendish.
Now that's funny. When
That
he
is
shows up,
funny.
he goes, "Well, it looks like to being late.
Yeah,
Didn't
Mr.
make me lose the
Smarty
job."
Those are smarty pants. Just snarkity snark.
Yes. Oh, totally.
Totally calls out Pa.
Yeah.
Totally calls out. So Almanzo knows he's lying, and he has lied. Hilarious. So now Pa has to pay for dinner.
Right.
So, and
That's
of
not
course,
right.
this was my other favorite part. Almanzo's like, "Oh, I'll have the steak with 2 eggs and the potatoes," and Mary's like,
He said, "I'll have the
same."
He's like, "Oh my God, where are you going to put all that food?"
we had previous episodes where Mary ate like a truck driver. When did that happen?
I was like, "Okay, Mary, guess she wants to take home a doggy bag tonight."
She
She wants to savor that meal the next day. No, that's right. That's it. Nobody ever takes her out. She's going to get the steak and the works with it.
all the food. She needed all the
Absolutely.
food.
So, and then of course, Charles doesn't have enough money for all that. Oh,
He's going to
by
have a
the
bowl
way,
of soup. And then he goes to the Garveys, and Andy busts him, saying, "Going to take another shortcut to the outhouse," kind of thing. That's
can we
that's a
can we
funny little
also
moment.
discuss what was the choice? Andy is topless in his little bunk bed. What was that choice of not putting a pajama top on him?
Was that
I
the
wasn't
time
there
period?
for that. I have no idea.
But that was the time period when both Matt Laberto and Pat Laberto were in Tiger Beat and 16 magazine
teen
every 3.5
idols.
minutes.
Oh my God. Andy wakes up in that bunk bed and I was like, why is he topless? What? He's naked in that bed.
Because he was like hot dude.
Yeah, he was like, peak teen magazine idol guy.
Right. No, Pat was pretty well worked out in those days. I would say, Matt was, never been a physical specimen, but at least that's not my recollection. But Pat really worked out, and he was.
We went from dorky kid like overnight to like bodybuilder. We were like, wait, what is happening? Yeah.
I was just kind of like, what? Andy is okay. Andy is.
It was Tiger Beat. That in the early 80s, there's endless pictures of them in like shorts
Teen
and crop
beat and
tops
stuff. Yeah.
tank
Oh,
tops
I've seen
and
the
cute
crop top
outfits,
look
like everywhere, and it would have been around that year. So yeah.
That was such an 80s.
Oh my God.
Such a sort of a Richard Simmons look from Workout, which is like, oh, come on.
I mean, Richard Simmons didn't even wear those crop tops.
Oh, yeah, he did.
He did?
Oh, yeah.
I know he wore the shorty shorts. I remember watching his show.
So did you wear sexy outfits in the 80s and pose for pictures for Tiger Beat?
I don't think that I ever went to that
crop tops.
extreme. I think when I was doing Gidget, there was a photo shoot that I did, but it was fully clothed. But it was, it was a sort of, hot with a hot model in wearing the different clothing, which was great. I thought this was a, pretty, well, I don't want to go into too much detail on that, but, but this was really fun to do.
No, from 1980 to 1984, I basically wore a bikini.
You really
like just
did.
all day, every day.
Really, so odd.
Look at the photos.
It was either
I just lived in a
full
bikini.
prairie. Yeah, it was either full prairie or bikini.
Or nothing.
Yeah.
Now, did Michael Landon wax his chest? Tell me. Give me the down low.
I can't answer that. I have no idea.
Hair. I do not believe he did, because I know that when he had to grow a beard in that weird episode where he did the beard, they faked it out. They actually
clearly.
Big
yeah.
fake
beard.
beard.
You see the glue on that beard.
Yeah.
Because when he
Ridiculous
would
beard.
not shave, because I remember him using electric shaver in the morning. It took him days to get what many.
So
There's
he was just one
some
of those
guys. They shave in the morning, and by noon they got like a whole black stubble thing, Italian guys. And then there's people. He could, if he stopped shaving, it would have taken him days to get like a good 5 o'clock shadow going.
Dean, are
he
you
did
that
not
way
have a
too?
lot of hair. He did not have a lot of body hair. I don't know if he waxed, but he's
I have
not
a
a
lot
hairy
of
guy.
chest hair. I have a
You
lot
would
of
have
chest hair.
you would have had to have waxed that all off if you did topless shots.
Well, no, I did one shot in an episode, I guess, when John Carter and I go to San Francisco. And they did the Japanese hot tub. And
I guess this is also Magnum PI era. You could have chest
right.
hair.
No, it's not like I had a hairy chest. I could have a hairy chest too. Yeah.
Right.
Hairy chest was in. Michael did not have a lot. It wasn't like a hairy guy genetically,
hairy guy.
so he may not have been waxing. He may have just been. That was what you got, was the teeny little bit. Yeah. But body hair was in back then. People had hairy chests like for days back then.
Yeah.
This is the only opportunity I would ever be able to say, did Michael Landon wax his chest?
I don't.
Anyway.
Let's clip that for a little teaser.
People let it, all hang out.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so now we're back at home. The men have to cook dinner for the ladies.
Well, there's the scene where they all have where the lie continues. Where
yes, okay.
He came down in one direction, and I came down in the other, and we met, and all bets are off.
What a whopper of a lie now. Now he tells a giant lie, and it all falls apart spectacularly.
Yes. And then yes, and that's fun, and they're the Carolyn and Laura are enjoying that moment. And then there, of course, is the dinner scene. And I loved doing that scene with Michael because that's just becomes, there's no rehearsal on that.
Yeah, that's just
we just go.
And
there.
pure slapstick. The burning roast. How did all the smoke, that black smoke coming out of the oven?
That was Luke Tillman, our special effects guy. I mean, he could make black smoke appear anywhere.
So good.
Yeah. So
that
everything was burned and charred and the back and forth. And why didn't you put water in it? And the pie, you can't. Do I have to tell you to put water? All those things became that was all improvised. There was no writing.
Now the black smoke. At the time that black smoke was better for you than the black smoke they used to use in the 50s and 60s. However, by today's standards, it's apparently terrible for you. Oh, sorry.
Now that's interesting. Yeah. I'm sure that. Well, didn't we have this conversation? We talked about Fuller's Earth and how
Fuller's Earth
considered the safe thing and not so much.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Was it really a burnt roast? Or was it
I don't know what it
else?
was. It was, but it was certainly, it was charred within an inch of its life. I got to believe that, the prop guys just put a blowtorch on this thing and turned it into something else. I love the moment at the end of this. So as we're like flailing in the kitchen and Carolyn says, I think Nellie's is serving till 9.
Yeah,
and they go, it's a wonderful moment. And that is a wonderful moment when they leave the house and they're laughing together as they head towards town to have this moment. And all is fine. Is all the lies are forgotten. All of this is like the guys got what was coming to them. We're going to still have a good dinner.
They're just so silly, those boys.
Yes. Look, all in, this was fun, lots of driving, beautiful scenery, a silly story, strong. What did you say, Alison? You described this as, something to a fall at the beginning, the wonderful phrase about
pride goeth before a fall, as Maul Ingalls would say, and be right.
This is what
in
the whole
situation.
episode is about that.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like this episode. It's so silly. I mean, it's such a departure from, although I guess later on don't you think season 7, certainly 8 and 9, well, no, 7, don't you think it sort of departed more into real fantasy world, like really veered off the actual prairie into its own fictional prairie world?
What's interesting about that, so then, and by the time we'll talk more about this later. My feeling always was in looking back on it, that as we stepped into season 9 with the new beginning, everything was dying.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an interesting way to start over again and have everything dying. Mm-hmm. Everyone's dying all over the place in the last season. And I think this was the show was heading towards its conclusion. I think this was season 7 was fun and silly and at moments, and there was the new marriage, and you had Divorce Walnut Grove style, and you had this in-laws episode, and so Alison, you're pregnant. It's season 7 is when you marry Percival. I mean, it's like yeah. So there was a lot of silliness. I think the show was changing because it needed to do something else. Mm-hmm. Just because you've been doing what you'd been doing for so long. I've always believed or felt, watching what I've watched, and I'm watching more of it, and it's confirming my belief that in those first early seasons, the show was so on target with what it was about and the energy that gave it birth. And it was, it's young Laura and young Mary and young Carrie and young Nellie and this.
We're very serious and earnest.
But it was also so heartfelt too.
Yes.
It was, there were these youthful where everything is so serious and important when you're being wronged, and the lessons that you learn as a young person are the lessons that stay with you your whole life. And I think this is where the show was at its absolute strongest. It was where it was where the show was designed to be. It's what the source material was about. It was, it was all of that. So, but look, we all had fun. The audience.
I'm not saying I didn't like the fantasy prairie, but it very clearly veered off that path.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
I wonder. Yeah. But I wonder if I wonder if Michael thought like maybe we should hang it up now, like after season 7, right? Or it's interesting that he wanted to keep going.
Well, it was too good. It was too successful to not keep going.
I see.
At that point, I think early into season 8, I think he realized that it was time that he needed to step away because he'd done everything that he could do. He'd done all of those stories with children and that he loved doing, that the audience loved him doing.
Yeah.
So he was reinventing children like crazy at that with James and Cassandra. And of course you got the wonderful Jason Bateman and, Missy Francis. But he felt like, okay, I can't do those scenes with Laura sitting on my lap anymore. Those scenes are gone. The pigtails are gone. Laura's a young woman. She's married now. What he did, that flavor that he brought that was so important paternally, was he couldn't play that anymore. And so I think it was time to move it on. And then, but when it changed, then you change the cast. I mean, we're getting off on it. We're really digressing here into the sort of the macro of all this, but I'm glad we got a laugh out of the end.
Yes, we sure did.
Yeah.
All right, we'll wrap things up then.
I'm a big liar, this one.
And Alison, you ate great pickle. You ate great pickle.
I got to, and if this hadn't happened, I wouldn't have gotten the pickles and found out the pickles and ice cream, pickles, maple syrup are delicious.
It was a life.
So there's our takeaway.
Yeah.
There's the takeaway.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We had so much fun with this. I really had fun with this episode. Join us on Patreon if you haven't yet. Please like and subscribe. Tell your friends. The more you tell, the more you like our videos and the podcast, the more we can get it around. So we appreciate all that. Join us on our socials, Little House 50 Podcast, or our website, littlehouse50podcast.com. Bob, get the wig. Let's fly, everybody. Cat